Hi, my name is Kayla, and this is my project 1 for mobile app development. The app I built is called Habit and Task Tracker. It's a Flutter application designed to help users stay organized by creating, viewing, and managing their daily tasks. In this presentation, I'm going to walk through the main features of the app, show how it works on a real device, and then take you behind the scenes to explain the code structure, including how I used SQLite for local storage and shared preferences for theme settings. So here is my code walkthrough. We're going to start with database helper. Here, I will define the task table, and these are my crew functions: insert, get task, update, and delete. The app uses these for all task operations. Next, we will review task model.dart. It defines the task class and includes to map and from map to convert between Dart objects and database rows. Next, we'll look at preferences service. This file handles saving and loading the theme mode using shared preferences. The app reads this on startup so dark mode stays saved. Next, we'll check out the home screen. Load task gets tasks from the database, and set state refreshes the UI. This screen also handles deleting tasks and marking them complete. Next, we'll look at the add task screen. It has the form for adding tasks, including validation. When the user saves, the task is inserted into SQLite. This is the settings screen, file. The switch here toggles dark mode and saves the preference. And the main Dart loads the save theme and applies it across the app. And that will be it for the main code structure. All right, here is my demo. Here is the home screen of my Habit and Task Tracker app. This is where all of the user's tasks are displayed. Each task shows the title, description, and whether it's completed or not. The list automatically updates whenever tasks are added, edited, or deleted. All of the data is stored locally using SQLite, so it stays saved even if the app is closed. Now I'll enter a task title and description. So When I tap save, the task is inserted into the SQLite database and I'm returned to the home screen where the new task appears immediately. Next, I'll add a new task by tapping this add button down here. Now, if I tap on the task, this opens the task details screen. Here, the user can see the full title and description. The screen pulls the task data directly from the database using the task ID. Now, I can also mark the task completed, and a check mark will show on the home screen. Next, I'll delete a task. When I tap the delete icon, which is here in the top right, the task is removed from the SQLite database and the list updates instantly. This demonstrates the delete operation in Crude. Now I'll go to the settings screen. Here, the user can switch between light and dark mode. When I toggle dark mode on, the entire app theme updates immediately. This preference is saved using shared preferences, so even if I close and reopen the app, the theme stays the same. So to show that everything is saved locally, I'll close the app completely and reopen it. So let's change it to light. As you can see, the tasks I added are still here and the theme I selected is still applied. That's because the app uses SQLite for task storage and shared preferences for theme persistence. The goal of this project was to solve a simple but common problem. People need a quick and reliable way to track their daily habits and tasks without creating accounts or relying on internet access. My app provides a lightweight solution using Flutter. It stores tasks locally using SQLite so everything works offline. It also saves the user's theme preference with shared preferences. So for requirements, the main goal was to build a simple habit and task tracker that works completely offline. The user can add a task, give it a title and description, and the app saves everything locally using SQLite. I also used shared preferences to store the theme setting, so if the user switches to dark mode, it stays that way even after closing the app. The outputs are basically the updated task list, the saved theme preference, and little confirmations like snack bars when something is added or if the user forgets to enter the title. For architecture, I kept everything organized in a way that made sense for this project. I separated the app into folders like screens, database, models, and service. The screens folder holds all the UI pages, like the home screen, add item screen, and setting screen. The database folder has my SQLite helper, which handles all the CRUD operations. The models folder has my task model, and the service folder handles things like saving the theme preference. For navigation, I use simple Flutter navigation with push and pop. The floating action button on the home screen opens the add item screen, and when you save a task, it pops back and refreshes the list. Here's a quick look at how my widget tree is set up. The whole app is wrapped in a material app, and the home screen is the first screen the user sees. From there, the add item screen and the settings screen are just pushed on top using simple navigation. On the home screen, I used an app bar at the top, a list view to show all the tasks, and a floating action button to add new ones. Keeping the widget tree clean like this makes the app easier to manage and helps avoid unnecessary rebuilds, which keeps everything running smoothly. For my database, I kept things clean, and I used one table called task. It stores everything the user adds. Each task has an auto-incrementing ID, a title, a description, and a timestamp for when it was created. The title is required, but the description is optional. This setup works well for this type of app because it's easy to query. It keeps everything organized and it works completely offline. When the user adds a new task, that's the create part. It gets inserted into the SQLite database, and the read part happens on the home screen where I call get task to load everything and show it in the list view. I didn't add an update feature in this version, but the database structure is set up in a way where I could add it later without changing much. For delete, the user can remove a task, and that calls the delete method in my database helper. I also added a simple validation so that the user can't save an empty task. If they try, the app shows a snack bar to let them know they need a title. For theme settings, I use shared preferences to save whether the user wants light mode or dark mode. It basically stores a simple true or false value, and the app reads that when it starts up. When the user flips the switch on the settings screen, the theme updates right away, and it stays that way even if they close the app. I added this because it makes the app feel more personal and a little more polished. I did add a few bonus features to make the app feel more complete. The first one is dark mode, and the app saves that choice automatically. I also added simple validation so the user can't save an empty task. Another thing I did was organize the project into folders and create a reusable database helper. Flutter made things a lot easier because I only had to write one code base, and it works on both Android and iOS. Hot reload was a big help too. I could make changes and see them instantly without restarting everything. Flutter's built-in material widgets also made it simple to create a clean and modern UI without doing a lot of extra work. Overall, Flutter helped me build the app faster, and it kept everything consistent across different devices. For state management, I used set state. Since my app isn't super complex, set state was enough to handle all the UI updates. The main example is when the user adds a task. After the task gets saved to the database, I'll call set state on the home screen to reload the list. The UI updates right away, and the new task shows up. I didn't need anything more advanced like provider or block for this project. Using set state kept everything easy to understand and made the app straightforward to maintain. For the UI and UX, I wanted everything to stay simple and easy to use. The home screen is clean and the main action is the plus button, so the user always knows how to add a task. When there's no task, I show the centered message so the screen doesn't look empty or confusing. I also kept the spacing and icons clear so everything feels organized. I made sure the colors look good in both light and dark mode, and the layout works well on different screen sizes. Overall, I wanted the app to feel straightforward and not overwhelming. For saving data, I use SQLite because it works offline and it's perfect for small apps like this. Every task the user adds gets stored in a local table with an ID, a title, and a description and a timestamp. The nice thing is that the data stays saved even if the user closes the app. When the app opens again, the home screen calls get tasks to load everything from the database and shows it in the list view. This setup keeps everything reliable without needing any internet connection or login system. For version control, I used Git mainly to save my final version and kept everything backed up. I didn't comment after every tiny change, but I did comment after finishing major parts of the project. My development process was pretty simple. I built the app in small steps, tested each feature, and fixed issues as I went. This kept everything organized, and it made the project easier to manage. My app uses SQLite for all task storage, and the UI connects to it through simple CRUD functions. Navigation is straightforward, and the user goes from home to add task and back. After adding or deleting task, I call set state so the home screen refreshes immediately. I also added validation and try blocks to handle errors cleanly. In conclusion, my app meets the core requirements. It uses SQLite for storage, shared preferences for settings, and a clean, responsive UI. The navigation and settings updates work smoothly, and then overall the design is simple and user-friendly. These are my selected Q&A questions. The first question is, what was the most challenging part of your implementation? The hardest part was getting SQLite to set up correctly and making sure the UI refreshed after each database change. Once I organized everything into a single database helper, it became much easier. Next question is, how did you design your database schema and why? I kept it simple. with one table for task. Each task has an ID, title, description, and a completion flag. That's all the app needs, and it keeps the database lightweight. Next question is, how does your app handle state updates for crew operations? After inserting, updating, or deleting tasks, I call load task and set state on home screen to refresh list from SQLite. What steps did you take to ensure code quality and organization? I organized my files into screens, models, and services. I used clear variable names and added comments in important areas so that the code is easy to follow. Last question is, how does your app use shared preferences and why was it needed? I used it throughout my preference service to store the theme mode. The app loads that preference at startup so it remembers whether the user prefers light or dark. And that will be the end of my presentation. Thank you.